Welcome to the b.reathe Conversations. This series explores how people operate as responsibility, ambition, and pressure grow over time. These are not burnout stories and they're not about fixing anything. They're calm, honest conversations about awareness, capacity, and what helps performance last. And today I'm joined by Matt. Thanks so much for being here. How are you?
Hi, Katie. Yeah, doing well. Thank you very much. Very excited to be here.
Good. Why don't we jump in and start with who you are and what you do?
Okay, yeah, let's do it. So I'm Matt. I'm based in East London, Stratford, originally from Essex. Traveled all over the world. Used to live in the Middle East for 8 years, and then got a little bit bored over there and wanted to come back and start my own business and start my own journey. And that was how the property business started. So I run a business called the Mindful Landlord, and we are an investment business. And we basically purchase properties, renovate properties, and then partner with people on benefit, councils, single mums, the homeless, and different charities. And we have a number of properties across the UK, but mostly focused in Manchester and in Durham. And it's always been something for me and my family is always about just giving back. And this has been like the perfect vehicle. And we have certainly evolved over the years. And yeah, very proud to have the business that we have today. And yeah, it's exciting to be part of that world and helping people get a nice roof over their heads.
Yeah, and I love your sort of like target audience and the name of your company as well, the mindful landlord. A lot of people have misconceptions about landlords. There are a few good ones out there, you being one of them.
Great. Yeah, great point. And that is actually one of the subjects, that's very close to my heart. And it's such an amazing industry, property, and we give back. And as you know, as I know, and all the people that we work with, we go above and beyond to give a service to tenants and make sure it's, the best, properties that they can live in. It's really unfortunate that there is this tainted version of what landlords actually are because at the end of the day, it's like a few bad eggs have like spoiled the whole bunch. And it's like what we're providing for people and the feedback that we get from the tenants and, all the charities that we work with are so happy with our service. And I don't think we'll ever be able to change that. There's a very strong opinion about what other people think about landlords, but we continue still giving a good service. And, at the end of the day, when I see the tenants and I go and see like the homeless people living in my properties, it lights me up because they're so happy with, the properties that they live in.
Yeah, and that's the main thing, isn't it? It doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. As long as your tenants are happy, you're happy, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, 100%, and that's it. And it can get to you at some points, but as long as, like you say, you're doing what you're doing and you're sticking by your values, that's always something that I've worked towards ensuring that the brand is always aligned with my values and the services that we offer to people.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned there that obviously it can be quite it can hurt sometimes when you're hearing these opinions. It can be quite hard as well in property. It's not always the easiest industry to be part of. There's very much ups and downs. And I know that you've got another side to your life as well.
Mm.
How do you cope with the more difficult times?
Yeah, good question. And that's actually, where I've branched out from here because we have the property business, which is Mindful Landlord. But then recently I've set up what's called You Got This, which is basically a um, business to help people build their confidence. And one of those special parts in that is about the property mindset shift, is trying to get people to shift their minds about how they feel about property because people see property as this buy property, we rent it out, it's very straightforward, and then just forget about it. But what we're trying to educate people on is the shift of moving away from like that sense to having that business mindset so that people can actually realize the complexities that go into actually building a property portfolio But when it's done correctly and it's systemized, then it can actually turn into something that can be passive and it is very fluid. But people, especially the perfect example is like a accidental landlord. The accidental landlord, they're like, oh my goodness, we've had a tragedy, or maybe we've inherited a property. And they think it's very straightforward to start managing it. But then they realize the renovations, the bills, the taxes, the management, the tenant upkeep, all these different things that suddenly start to like peel back the layers from what used to be this, "Oh, I've got a property, I can just rent it. It's going to be very easy." And what comes with that is the stress that comes behind it. And that's the difficulty where what our motto for the mindful landlord is actually making mindful property decisions that allow you to sleep at night, because you want to go to bed thinking, right, okay, I've ticked off all my tick lists. But sometimes people don't know what their tick lists are in property. And this, like you said, there causes that stress, causes that anxiety. And people sometimes don't know where to get those answers or get that information from.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have an outlet either, do they? They've never been
No.
through that sort of they've had stressful situations, but not that type of stress, and they don't know
Yeah.
how to release it, deal with it. There's so many different ways out there that you can do it as well, and I know that one thing that you do a lot of, and I see all over your You Got This Instagram, is your meditation.
Yes.
Do you mind elaborating a little bit on how you do your daily meditation and sort of how you came about it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a fundamental part of my life. And it's one of those things that is such a fascinating, subject, because it's been around for, hundreds, thousands of years, and millions of people do it all over the world. But it's one of those things that you can't see. Like when you do it, I wouldn't be able to know if Katie's like a master at doing meditation, because it's like underneath the skin. And this is what I find is the challenge when I'm working with people, because they are stressed, they are anxious, and they think meditation's a great idea. Let me get started. And they do it for a couple of minutes and they go, it doesn't work. No, that's it. I'm going to give it up. No. And I'm like, guys, you got to give it a bit of a chance. You're not going to see it evolve so quickly as that. But what the beauty of meditation is so many different avenues of one, it makes you calmer. Two, which is the big one, makes you less reactive. And that's what you need in the workplace. Something goes wrong, you have an argument with someone, actually just become calmer. And I don't know if you ever read or know like Stephen Peters' book, The Chimp Paradox. Perfect example. Yeah, you've got that really noisy chimp in your mind going like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And what the meditation does, calms you. It really calms you. So when someone annoys you, or you have an issue, or maybe the boiler goes or something and you're stressed, by having that relaxation, it just calms your mind to make you be like, okay, I'm not going to flip out. Give me a couple of minutes. And these are like these small things, that people don't really recognize. And this all started a few years ago, which was really interesting because I met a guy, as the world does, you have these incredible serendipitous occasions. And my meditation journey actually started when I met a friend of mine who I was traveling in Brazil 20 years ago. I'm going to show my age. And then we traveled together for a year. And I never saw the guy again for another 10 years. Randomly, it was my birthday. I walked into a pub having a few beers, and he was a Brazilian guy, and he walked in the pub. I was like, okay, right. And long story short is he was running a mindfulness and meditation business. And he said, Matt, come along. I'm doing a new workshop on Saturday. I'd love for you to find out. And I was at the very beginning of my meditation course, meditation journey then. I'd done a little bit, not too much. But what I thought of, this is going to be funny, he's got a big Brazilian community. And I was like, maybe there's some good Brazilian people there, I might be able to meet and like get to be good friends with some of his buddies. Let's go along. Best of both worlds. I turned up at this event, and instead of being girls and guys, it was basically 10 men all together. He couldn't get any women. It was just guys, teachers, builders, jujitsu fighters, MMA fighters, all these different types of quite testosterone built, quite like, alpha male men, all sitting around in a circle. And basically, every week for 2 hours on a Saturday, we would meet and share stories and share meditation techniques, which was so weird for a group of guys that have never met each other before, but had this kind of like feeling of like vulnerability that we were like, okay, let's just, no one's here. No one can tell. We let our guard down. And Mauricio, the guy who was the teacher, basically taught us how to meditate properly, taught us about mindfulness. And over these weeks, everybody changed. It was unbelievable. All these really tough guys just suddenly became calmer through meditation. And there was two guys in particular. One guy who had a Garmin watch on his arm, and another guy who liked a few beers. And both of them came in. First guy, after a few weeks, because a lot of these people were non-believers as well, and so they were helping Mauricio out. And the guy came in and was like, you know what, guys, this is crazy. Yeah, my resting heart rate keeps dropping each week with the more meditation that I do. So he's becoming calmer. Yeah. Another guy whose wife that he always used to have a little quarrel with and da 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 da. At the end of it, we gave all of our feedback. And the feedback he gave was that my wife thinks that or sees that I am a different person. Yeah. And we were like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. He was saying, I am less reactive. So I'm calm. So basically, we got set targets of like doing like 3 or 4 sessions a week, 5 to 10 minutes of meditation each day. And this compounding effect over 4, 6 weeks, this guy was calmer and his wife could see it. And I was sold. I was like, okay, so there's really something to this. And this was 5, 6 years ago. And since then, it's now been practice, research, educate. It's now a really important part of my life.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point there is that his wife noticed it. And what people don't realize is that all these little techniques and things to help you ground yourself, just be more present in the moment, maybe relax and not be so reactive when something goes wrong. It doesn't just help you, it helps the people around you because much like me, we're both much like you, sorry, we're both very much believers in like the energy around us, which is why we always put ourselves in the right rooms, right? And you can detect when someone is a little bit tense or
Yeah.
they're stressed or something's going on. And it does that energy radiates. So when you are calmer and you have that more inner grounding, people pick that up and it helps them become calm. And if it's going to help your relationship as well, for something that's free and quite simple to do, it takes practice, but it's easy to just, you can do it anywhere you go. It makes you wonder why people don't do it. Do you have any insight as to why people kind of give up so quickly when they try?
Yeah, and you touched on something there as well. It's free, and that's the thing. It's so easy to do, but what happens is we live in a very fast-paced world, and people need that instant like gratification. Like you go to the gym, you get bigger muscles, you go on a diet, you lose weight. That's what my reference was at the beginning of this was that when you meditate, you don't really see a external effect apart from maybe someone saying, "Oh, you seem calmer," for example. Now, people want that immediate, and so when someone is sitting there and they meditate, it's the first thing that I tell to everyone whenever I start any of my programs is that the biggest myth about meditation is that you need to have your mind quiet because everybody thinks you've got to sit there and you've got to not think about anything else, clear your mind, and it's rubbish. And that's where there's this miscommunication between what is actually supposed to happen when you meditate versus what actually happens. Because I've been doing this now 10 years and I will sit and I'll meditate, but my mind will go and I'll start thinking about something. But what happens is that it's just like any muscle. The more you work it, the easier it will become. So when you first start, you're going to sit there and probably after a couple of seconds, your mind will go. And then you just got to remember and bring yourself back. But for me now, after doing it for many years, I can sit and for a few minutes, my mind won't wander. It will then, I will wander, and then I'll just come back again. It's easier to stay in the moment, basically. And that's why I think, to answer your question, is that people don't persist with it because of those two things. They think that it should be giving them a result ASAP. And secondly, because their mind is wandering, they just give up on it because everything now is so, everything's so instantaneous. And to sit there is also very weird. To sit there, in silence with your eyes closed. I give anyone who's watching this and to you, to a little challenge is that when you are on a public transport, that is the ultimate place to do it. Do it on a bus, do it on the tube, do it on the train. When you're sitting there, just close your eyes and then do it. Because that is where people feel most self conscious because they're like, oh, everyone's going to be looking at me because I've got my eyes closed. I've got to have a look around and see and check everyone. But nobody cares. No one cares. Everyone's in their own mind, just worrying about their own things. Give it a try. And then it's just those few extra minutes. Because if you've got kids and you've got busy life, you've got so much stuff going on, it's like, where can you fit that in your diary? So sometimes when you're on the way to work, sitting down is definitely better. And just give it a try and see, because you're in your own world. No one's thinking you're looking strange. You just got your eyes closed.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that with people. You think that people are going to be watching you and thinking that you're really, really weird. And we have this, I think part of this fear comes from the fact that things are so accessible online now, and people record and take photos of anything they can. And people have this fear of ending up online when they didn't want to be. But sitting there with your eyes closed, people will think that you've probably just fallen asleep, or they
Yeah.
won't even notice you at all, because if you're quiet in the corner, you're invisible, essentially, to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But it's also the same anywhere you go. People don't go to the gym, or they won't try that new class that they want to go to because they're scared of people judging them. But all those people also started in that position. And I remember my first Muay Thai class. I was so nervous. And then I saw someone that I used to work with walk into the class, and I was like, nope. I was like, they're gonna see me, they're gonna tell everyone. And I was like, well, I've already paid for it. I'm here now. I'm gonna have to go in. And I went in, and as soon as I started sort of like hitting the pads and doing stuff, even though I wasn't very good, the one thing I realized is no one has the time or the energy to look at anyone else because you're so locked in and focused about what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like impossible to care what other people are
Yeah.
doing. And if you do come across that one judgmental person that does look at you a bit funny or is judging you, I usually just take it as a thing that one day they're going to realize that the judgment was the wrong way round, and they're going to try it themselves. And it's just part of their journey. We've all judged people before, and no one can deny that. And then when you look back, you're like, maybe they were onto something there.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, spot on. And that person, you can never take criticism from someone who is not doing what you're doing. That's also the other thing, isn't it? It's generally those people that are below you that are giving you that judgment. And so that's, if you can just bat them away like a bad fly and just be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
And
easier
it's
said than
like
done, that.
100%. And it's definitely a lot harder in today's world than it would have been when social media wasn't a thing, phones weren't a thing, we didn't have these devices to carry around us constantly. I don't know how many times I go on public transport and I see someone not on a phone. It's actually crazy how much those things are glued to people. Like in the evenings, I make a point of reading to go to bed because I try to reduce my screen time because this is what people around me are saying to do, and the dopamine hits, and I know all of the science behind it and why it helps. But the amount of times that like I'll go stay at a friend's house or go back to my mum and dad's and they're just sat on their phones. And I'm like,
Mm.
we're all in a room, we can talk. But how would you say, because you're pretty good sharing on social media, but also not being completely addicted to it.
Mm.
How would you say it is like growing up in the age that you are now with it so accessible and so easy to kind of get sucked into that hole? How do you pull yourself away from it?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, well, a good example, not necessarily for social media, but for TV. My business partner, she said something to me that always stuck with me. And actually, last night actually was actually the first time I ever broke it. Was that she has no TV in the week. So her thing is just like no. She's got two kids, and so she's just like no TV in the week. So weekends, it's like so it's a treat. And so over the last year, 18 months, I took that on board and it's great, actually. So I'm the same as you. You know, like I work for myself, but I love reading. And so in the week, I will either train, I will go out for a walk, or I will sit and I'll read my book, or I will most likely do some work. And so that is my opportunity for filling in the time that I could be watching TV. So it's these small little disciplines that are there. But a new one that I've just got, which I give credit to Chris Williamson, is not having your phone in your bedroom. So when I go to bed now, I ordered a timer for doing my meditation when I get up in the morning, just a little alarm clock, and then a bigger alarm clock, which is by my bed, which has an alarm on, which wakes me up in the morning. So I leave my phone on the opposite side of the flat, as far away as possible, before I go to bed. And so when I get up in the morning, I do my morning routine and everything like that, and try and test myself for as long as possible to not use my phone. Because what I've actually realized is that no one is trying to get hold of me. You know, there's no like, all it is, I've got like a group of really great mates, and they all send WhatsApp messages about high rocks, eating food, playing rugby, and having a beer. Like, I don't need that in my life. You know, before, like, I try to get to 10 o'clock. That's what I try to do. Because then I know the emails. I've got my VA, she manages my emails. So again, that keeps me away from that. But it's just this mentality, which is this, I can feel it all the time. You know, it's like this longing to be there. But when you can kind of get over that, no one's really trying to contact me for any importance. Let's say that it's a mental game over anything. But I mean, I've grown up with no phone. Oh, well, I didn't used to have phones, but nowadays, I don't know what the solution is. Actually, Katie, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I think that obviously all these technology companies, they employ psychologists and
Yeah,
scientists to purposely make them addictive so that you don't stop scrolling. All the stuff that we learn about hooking people in on social media, like there's going to be a clip I post from this that is designed to hook people in for the podcast. Like, and it's like this constant battle with being online and wanting to put your phone down versus being present in the moment. But then when you are present in the moment, you realize how many other people aren't. And that can be really quite hard as well. I've learned to not need my phone as much as other people, maybe in their 20s, or even like my mum and dad, they're on their phone all the time. Now that they've got
yeah.
it, they're just on it all the time. And it's actually quite eye opening when you stop going on your phone to realize how many people don't even want to talk to you in person.
Okay, so let's jump on that. Though. So, is it that they don't want to, or is it that they don't know how to?
Very good point. Why do you think that's come around?
Yeah, well, if you go back to like the beginning of time, the communication that we always, the best, most, or generally most successful people were the people who were the storytellers. They would keep people together, you know, the leaders of the tribes, you know, they would captivate people. And, you know, over the years, you know, as you know, working in sales or trying to win a deal or build a relationship with a landlord, you know, it all comes by how we articulate ourselves, how we come across like face to face. But now I think that because we've got these phones, the stories that we are getting ingrained are in front of us. So we're not learning how to tell a good story. You know, learn about pause, pitch, you know, the six P's, you know, to be a good storyteller. And so because of that, you've got this loss of communication that eventually is just people with really bad necks looking at their phones. And it's, you know, we're talking to these AI robots. We're losing this genuine connection that we have with people. And because of that, people stay inside more. They don't want to get out of the house. They don't communicate with someone because you're going to be talking to an AI all the time. You're not going to be educated on how to speak to anyone. And so I don't know, is that going to be a few years down the line and we're not going to even know how to talk to each other because we don't need to?
Yeah, and it's a really, really interesting point. But the issue that we have with that is, as humans, biologically, we need our oxytocin release. And that all
Mm,
comes through connection and
yeah,
communication and being
yeah.
around people. And a lot of people suffer from various different mental health issues nowadays for many, many different reasons. And what we're not educated on at school is your happy hormones, your dopamine, your
Mm,
oxytocin, your endorphins, your serotonin. If we understood that and the science behind it, there would be a much higher chance that people would want to connect with people and look after themselves a bit better, and they would start feeling a lot better. Maybe not fix the problem, but definitely help it a little bit. And all of this stuff isn't teach the same that financial issues aren't taught in school. It's like, why are these fundamentals of living not taught in school? However, I have noticed a shift from people in their teens and 20s now understanding their health, mental health, the benefits and stuff, and doing their own research because of the access that they've got to the internet a
hmm.
lot more than what like my parents in their 50s have, or my grandparents, because they can access that, and they're also seeing the side effects of people maybe in their 30s and 40s who are in that stage. If they haven't been around the right people, phones were suddenly sprung on them, internet was sprung on them, and they've kind of got sucked into it without fully understanding it. So the people in their 20s tend to be working on themselves a little bit more, and people going to the gym is a lot more popular. Non-drinkers in their 20s, huge. More non-drinkers in their 20s than there are people in their 50s and 60s. It's like all these, we've kind of gone around a bit of a loop, and I wonder if that's going to bring back, hopefully, the human connection.
Mm.
A lot of it also being realised after, no one likes to talk about it anymore, but COVID, when we were all locked in our houses and we couldn't communicate. So I wonder if that is an evolving cycle that we're coming back around to understanding it. But how long will it last, and how many people will actually do the work?
Yeah, yeah, it's I would hope so. I would hope it, keeps going round. I don't have any kids, so I don't have the reference for that. But I definitely notice when I go to the gym or to any of the fitness competitions I'm at, it is like an abundance of so many people now that are exercising and keeping themselves in shape compared to what it used to be like when I was first started training, compared to people that were in the pubs. It used to be like 10% of us going to the gym, 90% of people in the pubs. Now it's probably, I'd say, 60% people training, 40% people in the pubs. I sort of read an article the other day about people getting made redundant or potentially being made redundant with Heineken because, the sales are down. There's less sales of people actually drinking. At zero is still very high, the alcohol, the Heineken Zero, but the main brand is not doing as well. But it's great with that, but then it's at the same time, what are they then doing with it's the jobs, the AI, the different other structure that they're doing as well there? Because you see everyone online and everyone in my feed is doing really well. Everyone's really successful. So, what impact does that have on your mindset if you aren't doing it? How much does it motivate you versus how much does it demotivate you? Because if you listen to any of the classic Jim Rohn stuff, when you listen back to them, those were like records and books that they used to have back in the day. You wouldn't have any other influences from people that were better than you. So could just maybe just focus on yourself and like pump yourself up to make yourself feel good. So if you've already got that motivation in you and you're a positive person, then it's great. But if you are not a positive person, you don't have the right motivation and you see this motivation online, where does that send you? I think that's the danger of this. It's like, does it send you up? Does it bring you down? And life is tough at the moment. And I think that's where, again, you and I with the mindset, it's so important that one of the things which I was going to mention, which is definitely important with the guys that I speak to, is that people think about the meditation and the mindset, they should only do it when they're feeling bad. This is the thing. It's like one of those things that people, oh yeah, I've had a really shit day. I need to do some meditation. Or I've done a really bad day. And you should do some journaling. That's the opposite. It should be something that should be ingrained in you as a habit to try and stop you from having these dips. So to keep you like that high that you need to do, or that I call it the line of consistency.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I refer to it as our baseline is you should be
Okay.
doing this stuff every day because while
Yeah.
we wait until we're in a crisis to actually do
Perfect.
something, we
Yeah.
should be preventing it. And it's the same with I'm going to refer it to like obesity, for example. Why would you wait until you're huge before you start losing weight? If you recognize that you're not
Yeah.
comfortable, then start doing it earlier. There's many, many causes for it. And I'm not saying that people aren't actively trying, but if you notice it, do something earlier. Don't keep waiting for the ship to sink because it gets harder and harder the further that it gets.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like you said about the motivation. Like, is it doing a good thing or a bad thing? And you make such a good point that everyone on social media is successful,
Yeah.
even if they're bankrupt and got the worst life on social media. They're successful,
That's it.
and depending on your day, like there's days where I have really good days, there's days where I have really bad days. I'm sure you're the same. On a good day, I'm like, yeah, this like let's go. Like this is great. On a bad day, I'm like, why isn't my life like that? Like, and it completely changes depending on the mood you're in. And we have our baseline, but it doesn't stop the bad moods sometimes. It doesn't always stop the bad days. No one's perfect, and I don't think there's anyone in the world that's completely mastered the whole idea of balance, but you can learn it and you can definitely get better at it. But yeah, it's definitely the baseline and keeping it just steady. Do
Hmm.
it when things are great
Yeah.
because it's going to make you feel even better.
Yeah. And prolong the chances that you will have a down point as well. That's kind of what I think you're keeping your mind strong and so that it allows you to then have more opportunity to keep those endorphins going, keep that drive that you've got, which then might then peter. But sometimes it's also okay to let go, if you've been meditating and journaling and all these different things. And sometimes just having a little bit of time off is good. But because you've already understood the habit and the effect that you can get from it, then it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to start again. Like actually for the last, like, I don't know, probably 5 days, I haven't meditated because I've been training really early in the mornings. But I know that, I just come back to it. So this morning, sat, did my 10 minutes, happy days, because it's there and I understand it. I think that's also another thing is it's about the belief that people have. And people think about mindset can also be a little bit mumbo jumbo. Yeah, like how much can really sitting there with my eyes closed and breathing actually help me? And it's then how much can like forward visualization, manifestation, all that stuff. That's rubbish, mate. That's all woohoo. I don't want to do that. They're the kind of things where you're then toying with like belief. And so that's another hurdle to get over, which I find with my clients is like, or most of them are open, but some of them are a little bit like skeptical to it. But once then you start explaining things, then they start to maybe just see a little bit, okay, maybe I'm open to that. Let me reconsider that. And that's where sometimes if someone has got such a fixed block that they're not ready to open, you know, I always say to everyone, I can give you all the information now and I can teach you everything that I know, but it's up to you when you start actioning it.
Absolutely. And do you know what? It's one of the things I see very, very commonly. People that are on the brink of burnout, they're very close to being at the worst stage that they could be in. And it doesn't matter how many times you tell them until they're ready to accept that they need some help and
Yeah.
they need some support, they won't go and get it. And it's the same with anything in the world, any sort of addiction, bad habits, smoking is one of them. Until people are ready to accept that they want to actually stop smoking for themselves, they won't quit. Doesn't matter how many times you tell them to quit, they will
Yeah.
not do it until they are ready to do it themselves. And it's the same with the mindset stuff. Until people kind of, it's like a switch that just goes in your brain. I remember the stuff about manifestation and the power of the universe, and I was always a bit skeptical with it. And then one day I was just like, no, this stuff actually works. And that was it. Game changed. Like
Mm.
every day you think of it, something happens and you're like, what's that about? And it just opens all these doors, but it's like sometimes it is a time thing. you do have to just wait until they're ready, or wait
Yeah.
until they're ready to accept it.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's what it is, being a mentor, being a coach, you can give as much as you want, but that person, and that's also being a best friend, a husband, a wife, or anything, friend, like you look at it, their life through a different lens. And normally, yeah, it's a rock bottom kind of experience that they have, and then they might start, and then they might stop, and then they come and go. But what I've realized over the last few years, and through certainly from my experience, is the easiest way, or the way for people to start, is by giving them the smallest little thing to do. And that's where, when I work with a lot of my clients, they want these massive dreams, and they actually just need to do like one tiny little thing. And it's like, say, for example, people want to go and build a property portfolio and blah, 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 take over the world, but they've never actually had a phone call with an estate agent. They've never walked into an estate agent. And it's like, okay, right. So look, you want this, but we're down here. So it's like, let's just have a phone call with someone. Let's talk to someone. Same with you. Let's go and walk into a dojo or in MMA, if that's what it's called. Or if you want to start losing weight, let's try and understand or look on the back of what's on a pack of calories on one thing compared to something else. These are the small things that I find that just give the old light bulb moment. Because when someone's like, right, I want to go and lose 5 stone, they don't understand what's in a difference between like spaghetti bolognese in like a packet from Marks and Spencer's compared to spaghetti bolognese that they make at home. And once those little things, they start to break those down, they're like, oh, okay, right, interesting. And then but it takes time. And like what we said, if you're ready, the compounding effect over time, then suddenly, but people, and the danger is people want everything like
Now.
tomorrow or now. Yeah, don't they? Now. And it's like, you've got to take time. Like for you, me, or everybody, we've built all these different things or experienced things. And also, you've got to experience a loss. And that's again where you have the mindset to come back in. You build your business, it all falls apart. But have you got the mindset, okay, to then just get back on the horse, to then keep going and going again? Resilience, I think that's what it is. Resilience to life, really, and just to give up in any capacity. Otherwise, you can let the phone win. You can let the mindset win, and you can just sit at home. You can let your weight win. You get too big, and it's just chipping away bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit.
Yeah, and resilience is something that you can learn, and it is all those
Definitely.
really small habits. And what I work a lot on with people for their personal habits and trying to better themselves is making it so easy that they can't not do it, because they feel more stupid not doing it than
That's
if
it.
they just did it. One of the things that I've recently incorporated is daily stretching. So every time I feel like I'm getting a bit of an afternoon slump or feeling a little bit tired, rather than going and sitting down or grabbing a coffee, I do 5 minutes of stretching, and it usually turns into 15. And it's been a complete game changer for me. And now every time I feel a little bit tired, I'm like, just going to go and do a little stretch. And it's really enjoyable. And it's very much the journey, like you said. The thing that you remember is the journey, it's not the goal. High performers reach their goal. We forget that was ever the goal and we're on to the next. The thing that we remember is how we got there, and the things that went wrong, the things that went really right, the good days, the phone call that they said, yes, we accept your deal, or the phone call when they went, no, it's a load of crap. They're the things that you remember. The actual goal that you've achieved isn't ever the thing that we remember. So that journey is so important. We can slow down, we can take the time. Everything happens for a reason. And if you just let it happen how it's meant to, it will all work out the way that it's meant to.
Lovely words. Very true. Very, very, very true.
But yeah, just to round off today, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
After your last 5, 10 years in this industry, understanding yourself, doing it for you before you started helping other people, what are the top 3 things that you would recommend people to do on a daily or every other day? Something that they can start easy, simple, top 3 things.
Hmm. Okay. Um, well, I'm going to add just an additional one in there, just to go, just as something today. Is just be easy on yourself. Just like we are the only one that is in the way of getting to where we want to be or how we feel. And you just got to go easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up so much. Like if you've got a friend, or a partner, or, you've got a roof over your head, just like, I think we can be so difficult on us, tough on ourselves, and then that brings us down. Just to repeat ourselves, how grateful we are, in so many ways. It's just something just to kind of like tip over that mindset of taking us down, just to kind of like bring us back up again. But three different tips. Okay, well, first of all, it's got to be the meditation, definitely. And that is so easy. So for anyone that's listening, all you've got to do, just take 5 minutes, put a timer on your phone, close your eyes, put your hands on your lap, and just breathe in and out, in and out, in and out. 5 minutes. That's it, until the timer goes off. That's going to be one. See if you can do that a couple of times a week. But also something that I love doing is journaling. And that is journaling, which is then basically getting the words or the thoughts out of your mind onto paper so that you don't have such a busy mind, because you've got so many different things running about. And then you can start putting down your goals, your dreams, and start writing what they are going to be. And three is 100% is about calorie counting. This is probably a bit of a curveball, but this is actually one that I've only discovered over the last few years. I've lost a lot of weight. And the thing is, going to the gym is amazing and I love it. I do it most days. But actually, if people want to lose weight, you just got to watch out what you put in your mouth. And it is as simple as that. And I tell you, by losing weight makes you feel great. And it's so simple, because I thought by going to the gym all the time was going to get me into shape. I actually got in the best shape of my life from eating less calories. And it makes you feel better. People notice it. Your clothes fit better. Your mindset's better. So all of those different things actually all stem from just actually the food that you put in your mouth. Because when you put the bad food in your mouth, it makes you feel sluggish. You feel tired. When you eat really well, you look good and you actually feel good.
100%. And on that last one, I calorie count my breakfast and my lunch. I don't calorie count my dinner, but I always make sure it's homemade and fresh ingredients.
Lovely.
And just that alone means that it's less calories. Don't think people realize how many calories are in the processed food that we grab because we don't have the time. Oh, it's easier. It's not that expensive. We just grab that. Actually makes a massive difference to how we feel. And the stuff that's in it isn't meant for our bodies. So just making that fresh meal, you can meal prep it in advance, whack it in the freezer, get it out in the morning, makes a massive difference. And honestly, it tastes so much better as well. So there's so many benefits
Agreed.
to having the fresh food. But I just want to thank you for joining today and thank you for sharing your perspective so openly. Conversations like this exist to normalize experiences that many people go through quietly as life and responsibility grow. If anything we've spoken about feels familiar, that doesn't mean that something is wrong, it just means that you're paying attention. You can find more conversations like this through Breathe, and if you want to understand how you're currently operating, you can take the Breathe scorecard at www.breatheblueprint.com. And Matt, if anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they get hold of you?
Yeah, sure. Best thing is to reach me at Matt at the mindful landlord .co.uk, which is my email address, or just reach out to my Instagram, which is the mindful landlord. And be great to talk to you guys.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Katie.